Oh yeah, they've got a very strong
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the chat show where we talk about empathy, employment, and innovation, where the focus is on employment, employment for everyone. How do we promote employment for everyone in the society, and how do we leverage empathy and innovation and bring that innovation to promote employment for everyone. We talk to the thought leaders from the autism community, neurodivergent community, staffing industry leaders, and the tech leaders, thought leaders, and talk about on this topic. And today I have a special guest, Karen Simmons. Karen is a founder and CEO of Autism Today, the first online information and resource center for autism worldwide. She brings over 20 years of experience to the organization, having created over 14 publications, including Chicken Soup for the Soul, Children with Special Needs, and gold medal award winning The Official Autism 101 Manual. She has hosted 69 conferences in both biomedical and behavioral autism and special needs space, and is deeply rooted in the autism community worldwide. And we were just talking about the events and how COVID has impacted some of all her work and some of the activities. With that, Karen, welcome to the show, and thank you for
Thank,
joining.
thank you, Nish. It's so nice to be on the show. I'm honored and humbled by you. It's really nice to have be on the show.
And I know you have been doing some amazing work and lot of interviews and publications on the Autism Today platform. Tell us your journey from gemologist to grandmother of autism.
Well, I have lots of kids actually, but yeah, I'm a gemologist by trade. I used to travel around the world to collect gemstones while my sister collected dolls. And I still have the stones, and she doesn't have the dolls anymore. But I ended up on my journey having jewelry stores and things like that. And then I ended up having a child. My fifth child, Jonathan, was diagnosed with autism. And when I found out about his diagnosis, I was sitting in a Safeway parking lot, and I either chose to take him to a doctor, and I was very much in denial about the fact that my son would have autism. So I took him kicking and screaming to the doctor, and he was, of course, stimming and spinning around in circles. And I didn't think there was anything wrong with him, but my sister-in-law said, "Karen, you really have to have him checked out." And I decided to either embrace it or, be in denial. And I decided, well, it's not going to hurt for me to go ahead and have him in early intervention. And later that led to me writing books. I wrote the Little Rain Man, Autism Through the Eyes of a Child. And I wrote it at 11 o'clock at night on the bathroom floor after all the kids went to sleep. And it was one of those books, how you've heard of books being kind of coming through you, not, like it's just the words just poured through me because I really wanted everybody to understand what Jonathan was all about, because he would do things like, spin the chandelier around in circles and, flush things down the toilet to 𝐂𝐡𝐞𝐵, the invisible character, way down the pipes in the sewers, probably where the Ninja Turtles live. But I didn't want any other parents to have to go through the nightmare of hearing that their child was going to end up in an institution, little baby that they just had. So I didn't want anybody else to have to go through that. So I wanted to change the world. At that time, that's all I was set out to do, is change the world. My husband at the time was in total denial of the fact that anything could be wrong with his child, right? He was from the Italian culture, and they wouldn't embrace that thought. And it was really me struggling against that whole concept for many, many years in my relationship with him. Anyway, that gets into relationship stuff. But I ended up writing a total of 14 books, and then set out on a mission of changing the world and started doing conferences, became the exclusive Canadian distributor for Future Horizons, my publisher, and for many years. And during these conferences, I learned so much about autism that I was like, now I'm the grandmother of autism. I learned so many different things about autism, from social behavior, communication, social skills, all different aspects from all these different experts that I helped pull them together and created resources so parents could find all the information in one place. And I sort of went on a tangent of like doing all this, and it's almost like I got in so much into the detail of autism that I almost became so focused on autism that I was stimming out on autism myself. But I learned so much, and I wanted to create this resource, and that's what Autism Today is today. So it's all about autism, all the resources, all the tools that are going to help people with autism. It's not just autism awareness. It's, to be clear, because a lot of people talk about autism. Whoops, something happened. It's not just about autism. It's not just about awareness. It's about empathy, understanding. It's about solutions. It's about everything autism. Anyway, it's about interventions, help. It's about autism from cradle to grave. It's not, at one point it was about autism. Let's get through from point A to point B. Let's stay alive. Let's understand what we're going to be doing in grade school, in elementary school, and as we were living it. early intervention, grade school, then high school, then college. And then it's like, we got through that hurdle and it's like, oh my God, well, okay, now what do we do? We forgot, oh yeah, they have to get out of high school. Oh yeah, they have to go get a job. Whoops, we forgot about that. And we got to that point as all the parents at that stage. So it's like now we're inventing, okay, we got to get the jobs, we got to get employment. I think we're all this cluster of parents that are at that stage. But
Yeah,
we're figuring it out, At the time that I wrote my book, there were 34 books on autism, Little Rain
yeah,
Man.
yeah,
Now there's
yeah.
books coming out of the woodwork, which is great. So
Beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's helpful. And like I was telling
amazing
you,
journey.
huh?
Amazing journey of changing the world. That's how I describe, and that
Yeah,
passion and that your experience, the beautiful thing, Karen, what I heard is that how your own experience, you converted that into information for others, so that they and from all possible angles. And like, that's so amazing that, from the graduation to employment, and starting with the child, and then every aspect of autism. So that is so wonderful. In fact, when you were talking about your journey, I was thinking how we went through the same similar journey, of course not as a parent but as a professional and social entrepreneur. I have gone through the similar journey. We work on the training and education, and especially in schools, and then the wait, let's look at the employment, and that's where we started working. So it is just and thank you for sharing this your journey. And if you can continue and share a little bit about employment, because employment, you just hit something
yeah.
which, so tell us what are those some point, share your experience from raising kids with autism and preparing them for work. What are those key elements parents needs to look into and just
Well,
work
they
on?
need to start out early. They need to start thinking as soon as they possibly can about getting their kids to work, getting them to go pick up newspapers, start thinking as soon as they possibly can about what their special interests are, and get them to go, like I said, find a job, walk the neighbor's dog, those types of things. Pay them for things that they do around the house. Maybe it could be as simple as making origami birds and selling them to their parents or something. To start getting them used to selling something, making money, taking care of their bank account. Little tiny tasks, so they start getting used to the idea of they've got to create their own way. Like there was a book that my mother read to me when I was a kid about you got to bake the bread, you got to pay for, you know, you get to eat the loaf of bread if you help participate in the baking of the bread. You're not going to just get handed the piece of bread. I mean, it's pretty rudimentary, but it's very important that if you participate in creating something, then you get to reap the rewards. Pretty
Hmm.
basic, but it's important. But
Hmm.
when you go to the workplace, the employer needs to understand accommodations. They need to understand what the person with autism in particular may be like, or even other people too. Like the lighting may bother them. They're very sensitive to lighting. They can be very sensitive, hyper or hypo sensitive. Maybe there's not enough light in a certain environment. Maybe people are very sensitive to their environment. Maybe they don't like to be around a bunch of people. Maybe the noise might really bother them. So if you educate the employer to be sensitive to a person with autism, or neurodiversity, they can make simple accommodations that don't cost money
Yeah.
and just be in tune, like empathetic. Like you
Mhm.
have that T-shirt that says empathy. Be empathetic. What is going on for the other person? What's going on in their world? And they can be sensitive to that. Don't put them in a big bunch of people. You know, that's uncomfortable. Maybe put some tennis balls on the bottom of their chair so it doesn't squeak all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Find out what tasks they like to do the most and put them in that particular role. That's just a few hints of different things that might be helpful.
Right. Right.
There's a lot
Now,
of different things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. As a parent, also, if you can share some of your learnings and working, and one of the things which you mentioned, that some of the tasks and identify their strength. So your thoughts on how parents can learn about that, and then of course there are professionals who can map their strength, because that's where we face challenges when we try to map. So parents, what is your advice to parents, and what to look for so that they can plan that in advance and prepare themselves?
Well, I know everybody calls me Pollyanna, and I don't know if younger people know who Pollyanna was, but always look at the roses, always look at the glass half full, always look at the good stuff, and I know sometimes that's hard to do,
Yeah.
but if you look for the gifts, the strengths, and the talents that somebody has, then you can focus on the gifts and the strengths and the talents, the
Yeah.
things that people enjoy as human beings. We need to look at these types of gifts and strengths that people have. And if somebody enjoys doing something, then try to focus in that direction. I know Jonathan loves computers. So we tried to focus in areas that he liked computers, or if he likes to build blocks, he liked to sculpt things with his hands. He liked to whittle wood. So, I mean, if he likes to whittle wood, then let him whittle, let him do that. Um, things that he enjoyed doing. If he liked to go swimming, whatever he likes to do, try to focus on the areas that he likes to do. Maybe somebody likes bicycles a lot. Maybe they have an interest in airplanes. Then try to find something, maybe not being an aeronautical engineer, that might not be what it is, but maybe something to do with airplanes. Um, those types of things. Focus on the strengths.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And you touched a little bit on the employer side and accommodations.
Mm.
Why? What are your thoughts? Why these accommodations are important, and how it has helped, or it is helping individuals on the spectrum?
It helps everybody. It helps the employer too, because everybody wants the best return on investment from
Yeah.
that standpoint. Everybody, the employer does, the parent does. They want their child to have the best success. And
Mhm.
that is a return on investment, really, to get down to it. Everybody wants to have the best experience. So, from that standpoint, you just you want everybody to be fully engaged in the process.
Mhm.
So the employer will have the best experience if they have everybody participating to their fullest. Now, if the if the people that are engaging with the person with autism are also having the best experience, they're going to also have the most effective training, the most effective workflow. They're going to have the best everything. I guess that's kind of rambling a bit, but I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and accommodation. Maybe if you can connect accommodation and some of those things with interview process and some of the things, if you can
Okay.
highlight, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, the interview process. I know that the interview process is based on an old system of, you got to look pretty, you've got to dress nice, and that's all fine and dandy and everything. But sometimes that isn't necessarily the most important thing that you need to do. The most important thing to do is get the job done.
Yeah,
And and like I know some people don't necessarily show up with their hair perfectly groomed, and that shouldn't be the main thing you base something on. You need to base something on getting the task done.
hmm,
So it needs to be they need to show up with, what is it that we're doing here? Show me an example of the work that you're doing, and have that be what you're evaluating somebody on.
yeah,
So instead of on what you look like, on an old model of how you show up in the workplace. So, and a lot more people are probably getting jobs now that they don't have to show up to work uh, for the typical resume. I know that my son was sending resumes right, left, and center out, and they were ending up in a black hole because a lot of them, the whole process of doing it before was very clumsy, and the resumes aren't even being looked at. So I think that whole system needs to be revamped.
yeah. In our world, we always say, how do we screen in candidates versus screen out, right? Screening,
Right,
looking at the person's strength, looking at their abilities and mapping that to the right job, versus looking
right.
at the job and just say not qualified, not qualified. So That's great. Now, earlier when we spoke, I remember you raised an interesting dilemma. How do parents hold their child's hand while also letting go their child's hand? Tell us a little bit about that. That is so amazing, and we experience that pretty much
That's
almost
an
every day.
interesting part. There's independence, there's dependence, and there's interdependence. And it's a
Hmm.
very challenging time for me, because I feel like I have to hold my son's hand, but I can't. So there's this interdependent part where I'm chopped off from being able to hold his hand to help him get a job, because it's like, okay, mom, I'm done. I'm 18 or I'm 21, and I cannot help him at a certain time because society says, well, he's a grown up now and you can't support him in getting a job. Yet I need to help him in certain ways. And I feel like I want to, but I can't. So I wish there was something in between, that it was more socially acceptable for me to be able to help him, because I feel like I really need to. I want to bring my son in to help me with my business, because I know he has so many skills that so many people, don't have, that he has. And I am going to do that. So what I'm doing is I'm having my partner help supervise him, because I know that I will fall into the trap of mommy.
Love it.
I will. I know I will. And I'm not going to do that, because I know that the patterns of behavior that I will fall into and that he will fall into will not support him in being the best him that he can be and the best me that I can be. So I know. So I think that role is going to be a lot better. And it's just, we're too trained into being who we are as humans, to be able to be perfect and say, okay, I'm going to step out of this role and I'm going to be the boss now, to put on the boss hat. And then, you get back into, it's just too many patterns. So I think that's going to be a good solution
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
for him to
So
set this
yeah,
out.
so Karen, we work with a lot of employee resource group within the organization where they are great champions and they want to help, they want to promote employment for neurodivergent talent, and some of them are connected as a family member. Um, so they have that really bonding, and they have a different way of working with their own family member as well as someone at the workplace. So tell us, what are your thoughts, how and advice for some of those members where they see this type of initiatives working at the workplace, how they can contribute and help individuals as their neurodivergent talent coming to the workplace?
So wait, that be clear. Explain that one more time. I don't
Yeah,
quite.
so we there are at the large organizations where they have employee resource group. So
Mhm.
their mission and goal is to promote employment for neurodivergent talent, and these are passionate parents in some cases. So if you are a passionate parent at workplace, and if you have some neurodivergent talent coming in, individual coming working with you or for you, um, uh, any advice how can they can help the individual at the same time, you know not I
Fall
don't
into
know,
the
just
trap. Fall into the trap. How they can separate themselves out. Yeah, it's a tricky thing, because there's boundaries. You have to be able to watch yourself from outside, and then monitor yourself from inside, because it's you just kind of have to be two places at the same time. You have to say, okay, I can't step over this line, and I have to, make sure that I'm being, true to myself and true to the cause, and also, um, just respect boundaries to the best of my ability. And you always have to put that little disclaimer in there too, because you're human too, right?
yeah.
So I would say just to be very cognizant of of boundaries, and try to be the best you can be. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely, and that's the role of employer and the parent, and some kind of a boundary as we switch places.
And be
Absolutely.
empathetic. Be empathetic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Empathy plays a big role. Try to understand what's going on for the other parents, try to understand what's going on for the person with neurodiversity, um, and just to be patient and understanding.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what you are doing with your son and family member as you are. So, how? Just tell us a little bit more. You mentioned your strategy a little bit, but for parents who has a family member and if they have their own business or an enterprise, what are those things which you have explored and recognize and learn from that so you can help your family member to be part of your enterprise or business or maybe in some cases they can be at workplace as a colleague or a peer.
Well, it's got to be his choice. It's got to be their choice whether they want to be a part of what you're doing or not.
That's right.
And you need to encourage them to do what they want to do for them, not push them into it. I know a lot of, I mean, it's every parent's dream that their children are, well, at least I would think that I can't assume that, but I think a lot of parents would want to have their children be a part of what they created, to have it go on and be a legacy, and that would be a dream come true. But it has to be what they want,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. So it's a tricky thing, even with healthcare. I'm trying to get my kids to go see the doctor and do these different things, but it's got to be their calling too, and that's hard.
It's hard.
It is.
That's hard for any parent,
It's
right?
hard for any
For
parent.
everyone. Yeah, every one of us. That's it's always a challenge. So let's change gears a little bit before I get into very interesting question which we talked earlier. I'm going to keep that
Yep.
towards the end. During COVID, what are the new trends you have seen, and what do you see post COVID things changes for people on the autism spectrum?
Well, I know during COVID, it was very hard because of the structure change. It's for people to go back and forth. They had to. People with autism really like to do the same thing. So, like having to go home, and then they're more comfortable a lot of times in isolation. So
Mhm.
having to go back to work, it's going to be harder,
Yeah.
most likely, because they are going to have to change. And then if they're going to have to go home again in case something happens with the variant, then it's going to be harder because of the changing the structure again.
Yes.
So and we wrote a lot of the things to do with that in the Autism in Lockdown book. Um, that's published by Future Horizons. We have information about that on our site.
Great.
So yeah, wrote a lot about handling some of the emotional situations, and what you need to do for that. That was very challenging. So some of the social interaction things. Um, we don't know what's going to happen. So if things lighten up, that's one thing, but what happens if it's back and forth and back and forth? Some of the working at home things are going to be easier. So we don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. That's the thing.
Yeah. Time will show, and we just need to keep on figuring out and learning and preparing ourselves, and constantly analyzing it. That's what we have been doing with all our employer partners, that constantly keeping an eye, and then based on the policies they adopt, we are kind of looking into some of these challenges as you mentioned, and how do we incorporate that so they consider all these challenges is when they are building their policies around going back to work post COVID. So yes, it is very evolving world, and it is going to evolve. I know you are very, very, very innovative, and you have been working on some great projects. Tell us a little bit about some of your innovative projects.
Sure. Well, actually, I just got off a call with Nadia Hamilton of Magnus Mode, and she's got a lot of really cool things that she does with different partners, like Trader Joe's, CIBC Bank, and lots of different places like that where it's going to help people navigate a lot more easily with
Mm-hmm.
autism. So they have apps and tools, and if people want to check that out, they can. Um, so that's going to help people get around a lot easier. She has a brother with autism.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're also talking about the possibility of creating a movie and creating a game. And I don't know, I can't really say much more than that at this
Yeah.
point. And we're partnering with Billion Strong. I need to tell you about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're looking for country partners. She has 70 country partners. So we're definitely unifying a lot of people, because right now with what we're doing with Autism Today Autism Today is we are turning it into a foundation because we feel like it can grow and leave a legacy all over the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be my legacy, because we need to help spread empathy and passion and understanding and collaboration. Collaboration is the main thing, because with a lot of the causes, is this the time to talk about this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, it's a time. This is the. In fact, I wanted to ask you that, your whole career, and you have been just a great collaborator, and great through great partnerships. Tell us why it is important, and we were talking earlier why it is very important for the autism community, and
Well, it's
because
very important for the world,
for the world.
basically. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
very important for the autism community in right now, because with a lot of the causes that are going on in the world, there is this ability to collaborate and unify and hold hands, and, like, say for example, Black Lives Matter and the women's movement and kumbaya and the holding hands and being able to unify and join together.
Yeah.
It's hasn't really happened with the autism community, because the autism community can be very splintered and very separate, because just the very nature of autism is very focused, narrow focused, and as a general rule, it's very egocentric and very self-focused, just by the very nature. So my goal is to help autism organizations and neurodiverse organizations unify and connect and collaborate and work together, so we can come together for a common cause, because there's no shortage of ideas, there's no shortage of money and collective consciousness to be able to unify together and come together for a common cause and goodness and help, because we can help people together a lot more than separating, and and share the resources and share the purpose of the tools that we have. Like, a lot of people in the autism community have created a lot of beautiful tools, like Play, and they're great. They're great partners, where they've created this one tool, which is social, emotional, and empathetic learning for people with autism, where you read facial expressions, tone and voice, body language, and inside the body, so you understand your emotions better, so the person with autism does, and the people that are around them. But other tools that have come out of the people with autism, like, there's so much more that can be done if people share and they grow and they learn more and more and more. That there's just so a wealth of information that can help so many people, and not even just the people with autism and neurodiversity, but the people that have been isolated because of COVID are experiencing so many social challenges, emotional challenges, empathy challenges, because they've been stuck behind a computer and they haven't been able to, talk to people. They haven't been able to connect. So it's going to help in that respect, in that regard as well. It's going to help people everywhere. Like, I think people like autism people are kind of like the canaries in the coal mine, where they're indicators of where society is going with environmental, um, a lot of these different things, they're conditions that are happening. Um, People with autism have been like that. They're showing up in society, and that may be where we can really help a lot of people that are suffering in a lot of ways.
That is so true. That is so true. That's so powerful message. It's so important. And personally, I have experienced that. We all at Rangam have experienced this, the true collaboration and partnership, and through which we will able to make and move this needle a lot more quicker and faster.
Yes.
Time is everything. We have made some great progress. It has been a slow progress, but the good news is in last 18 months, Karen, we have all seen that whole change, rapidly changing the environment, the expectation, the initiatives from all these large global corporations. So things are getting better, and your vision for future is just amazing, and I truly believe that that is the right way, and that's what is happening as we go, and that's where we all have to collaborate, and we are as we go. In fact, I was just sharing with you earlier that one of the organization we work with disability in and autism at work program, where large companies are collaborating and sharing those success stories, where we have joined the roundtable, and we are sharing our success stories, best practices, our learnings, and how we can collaborate with each other, learn from each other, and make things better for everyone. So with that, thank you, Karen, for joining us today. I would love to continue this conversation offline and do more expanded collaboration in the area of autism and innovation and empathetic approach and movies and some great awareness in the society and games. So thank you for all the great work you do for the autism community. And again, thank you for your time. And Melinda, thank you for doing a great work and in translating our conversation. Um, so thank you again, Karen.
Thank you, Nish. Thank you very much, Nish.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We will continue this conversation next week, same time, same place. So then, take care and stay safe, stay healthy. See you next week. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Kiran. Thank you, Melinda. Bye.
Linda.